Christmas from here in Bethlehem, here in the grotto next to the manger where the Lord was born. We have here dozens and dozens of oil lamps with their soft, quiet light, perfect for a moment when the newborn baby is asleep in the manger.
Okay.
The light also is in our own homes, and I invite you to light that white candle, the Christmas candle, as part of your Advent wreath, which has now become the Christmas wreath. Just bathe in the light of the Christmas tree. And it's a blessing to be able to be here and share this space with so many people who celebrate Christmas with us. And we have come as well. We, the modern day Magi, we have given our gifts, so we brought our gifts, and now we're giving them also to the Lord, placing them at his feet. So let's remember what we've done over this past Advent. We can remember just a few days ago, we were with the shepherds in the shepherds' fields. We had the gold in our hands, this light that came from heaven, giving our gift of gold, receiving that gift of love from the Lord himself, and also receiving the baby Jesus in our own hands like that poor shepherd boy. We began this pilgrimage to light by reflecting on the world that we live in, the difficulties we've had in this entire past year, the world of darkness and conflict, polarization and war. And we began that journey as the modern day Magi. We traveled that desert of pilgrimage from darkness into light, following the light of that small star, that star of wonder, guiding the Magi of the past and us in the present. We've seen the light of God dwelling where he used to be in the temple of old in Jerusalem, and we can offer our praise, and we offered our praise and can continue today, this praise of frankincense, the incense going to heaven, seeking to open the gates that have been closed in our own hearts. We have and we can continue offering this gift of myrrh, the myrrh of suffering of the Lord, trusting in God's promises and providence, even in the midst of this past year, even with violence and continued suffering, like the innocents who were killed by Herod. But we see the light shine brightly again before us. As I said, quiet, silent, like these oil lamps. Our gold, our frankincense, our myrrh, quiet before him in the light. And I think in this moment, this Christmas time, maybe we can reflect on Isaiah, who spoke so poignantly about this day. He said, "There is no gloom where there had been distress." And he continues, "The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who lived in the land of gloom, a light has shone. You have brought them abundant joy and great rejoicing. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, and they exult when dividing the spoils." This is what we've lived. We've seen it in the people on our journey. And Isaiah continues, "For the yoke that burdened them," that which has burdened us at the beginning of this Advent, the yoke that burdened them, the pole on their shoulder, the rod of their taskmaster, you have smashed, as on the day at Midian. For every boot that trampled in battle, every cloak rolled in blood, will be burned as fuel for fire, caught up in the light. For a child is born to us, says Isaiah, a son is given to us. Upon his shoulder dominion rests, the king. They name him Wonder Counselor, God Hero, Father Forever, Prince of Peace. His dominion is vast, forever powerful, upon David's throne and over his kingdom, which he confirms and sustains by judgment and justice, both now and forever. This is what we've done. This is our pilgrimage to light, and it's not just ours. Everyone who has been here in this grotto, everyone who has made this pilgrimage to Bethlehem to come and encounter the Lord has had the same pathway. And so we find in the manger not only pilgrims, but we've talked about the different people who are here with Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus. And Isaiah also said this, "An ox knows its owner, and an ass its master's manger." We can't help when we put out our Christmas scene or when we see in the paintings and the beautiful artwork at Christmas time, not just Mary and Joseph and the baby, not just the three kings, not just the shepherds, but also those two figures, the ox and the ass. What does this mean? Well, if we go to the prophet Habakkuk, and that would be in chapter 3, verse 2, in the Greek edition, which I think is important to underline, this is what it says. "O Lord, I have heard of your renown, and I am in awe." Just like a child when they go to the Christmas tree, right? I am in awe. In the midst of living creatures, you will make yourself known. When the time comes, you will appear. So if we go back to those words, it's very interesting how it brings us to Exodus 25. And in Exodus 25, it speaks about the Lord being made manifest in the midst of his living creatures. They're talking about the angels, again, the angels over the Ark of the Covenant. What happens? Who is there? That is the seat of mercy, they call it, of course. It is where the Lord dwells. That's what was in the Holy of Holies. It's God himself. In this grotto, with the ox and the ass, these living creatures, we are suddenly in a new Ark of the Covenant. His presence is among us again. All of mankind, just like the Jews in the past, know that he is with us, walking with us, made flesh with us. That's what the grotto is. That's what each one of your manger scenes is. The time of God making himself known in the midst of living creatures. Shepherds, well, of course, the ox and the ass. Shepherds, magi, Jews and Gentiles. And many times we can look at ourselves and say, we are like these creatures without intelligence, like animals. We don't recognize him. They did. And that gives us hope. The presence, and in the presence of the small, soft light of the newborn, the humble apparition of God in the manger, he has made himself known. And this is what they call Epiphany, being made manifest. This is the name of the feast, as we all know, when the Magi come to worship the Lord, which is the place of the manger. This is where the Lord was placed by Mary on the hay. It's where the shepherds came. It could be where the kings came, but they probably went to another place because they went to a better place after the day that the Lord was born. But there's an important dimension of Christmas I wanted to mention. And it's something I mentioned because Matthew mentions it in his gospel. And that is the fact that Jesus is from, well, it's called the Nazareno, from Nazareth. He is from Nazareth. So it's important to know why he would put that in the Christmas narrative. Well, there's a Hebrew root word, which is very similar to that, and it's N-E-Z-E-R, Nezer, which is found at the heart of the prophecy of Isaiah. If you want to look at Isaiah 11:1. He says, there shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse. And shoot in the prophecy is actually Nezer, which is the same root as Nazareno or Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth. So this prophetic saying has to be read in this context of this messianic trilogy, in a sense, that Isaiah speaks about. In Isaiah 7, he says, a virgin shall conceive. In chapter 9, he says, a light in the darkness, unto us a child is born. In chapter 11, he says, the shoot from the stump over whom the Spirit of the Lord rests. The shoot, the Nezer. So Matthew explicitly speaks about this in Isaiah 7 and Isaiah 9. And so it just makes sense to bring in Isaiah 11. So what does this mean? The unusual element is this promise that this genealogy goes back beyond David and Jesse. When we're talking about the genealogy of Jesus, that's why the star is so important. And that's why if you read the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew that we've used over these weeks of Advent, he gives 14 generations. The generations where Jesus is finally born from. But when we're talking about a root coming from the stump of Jesse, it means that the stump is dead. And that shoot, something new has come forth. For those of you who like to grow things, or anybody really, when you see a shoot that is coming forth, especially when it's coming from the earth directly, it's in the darkness of the soil. It's in the darkness maybe of a dead stump. And it's pushing out toward the light. This again brings us back to our pilgrimage to light. So in this sense,
Jesus, the new shoot, brings us back to the very beginning, puts this entire situation, this entire birth of the Lord into salvation history. He's called Jesus of Nazareth because of this. A new beginning, a new shoot is come forth. In the same way, just like before, the way Matthew brings us from the beginning of his gospel to the end, he does the same by saying that Jesus is Jesus the Nazarene, or Jesus from Nazareth. Because the only other time in the gospel, his gospel, where that is mentioned, is at the cross, when they put that sign above his head, Jesus the Nazarene, King of the Jews. Jews, Gentiles, recognize him as the shoot, the new shoot from the stump of Jesse, pushing through the light. So we can end with a lot of things in our mind, especially though the image of light. Just like the shoot pushes through the earth, through the branch or through a stump toward the light, this is not only the Lord, but it has to be each and every one of us. Just like these oil lamps are lit and give light to all the pilgrims here, just as we go forth from this place, from darkness into light, just like in this Christmas season, in this darkest time of year, we are called to be like these Advent candles, this Christmas tree that lights the world. He is the light of the world so that we can be the light of the world. And so I want to end just by reading this beautiful Christmas hymn called O Root of Jesse. Many times we don't sing it as much anymore. There's a lot of antiphons that we do sing, but this is a beautiful song, and it's a wonderful conclusion, calling us to go out and be the light of the world. And this is how it goes. O Root of Jesse, who standest for an ensign of the people, at whom kings shall shut their mouths and whom the Gentiles shall pray, come and deliver us and tarry not. O Root of Jesse, thou on whom the Holy Ghost shall rest, whose boughs through the world shall bloom to bless and be blessed. True vine, in whom we must abide to bring forth plenteous fruit, whose branches, when by tempests tried, are firm in thee their root. Thou art a shadow from the heat that burns the thirsty ground, a hiding place when tempests beat upon the plain ground. O Root of Jesse, day by day, to thee our prayers we send. Come now, and through the world we pray, thy healing leaves extend. This Root of Jesse, calling us also to be this something new in the world of darkness. May God bless you, and from this beautiful place here in the Holy Land from Bethlehem, not only very Merry Christmas, but know that we're praying for each and every one of you, and God bless you.